Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am sharing with you my diary entry for the week of October 30th through November 4th. Today is November 4th, which you're probably wondering, well, how come you're not going through November 5th, which would be the Saturday, and I normally film on Saturdays. But Saturday happens to be my daughter's birthday, and so I decided that I was going to spend the day with her and not do any filming, because normally when I do filming on Saturday, it is an all-day production. So I film all of my videos, I bulk film on Saturday, and then I edit my What I've Been Warming video immediately after, and that takes forever, especially now that I've been having problems with my program. So, the program is giving me problems. I haven't even had it for a year. I haven't even had my computer for a year. But for whatever reason, this particular program that I had used forever, I purchased a licensed copy and it's just been giving me problems since then. So I tried to do an update and they want me to pay $30 because I've had the program for over 6 months. So, in their eyes, I've had enough of my purchased product, and I don't want to pay another $30 because I haven't even, I don't feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of this program. So, I've been struggling. It's taken me a long time to edit things the last couple weeks, just because I've had to edit and then re-import and re-export and export the videos twice to get everything in, and it's just been a big deal. So anyway, I didn't want to have all of that frustration on my daughter's birthday, so I decided to change things up and film on Friday. So this video entry is going to be one day short of what I normally bring to you, but I don't think that there'll be much to talk about as far as the one day, but if there is, you'll see it the next time. So anyway, yeah, things may look a little different because I've had to finagle a few things as far as my editing goes. So we'll see. But anyway, I've read a few things since I talked to you last, and I have knit on some things actually. And yeah, so let's just get into what I've read since I talked to you last. So I finished 3 things since I talked to you last. 2 of them were October finishes, and 1 of them is a November finish. So I finished Crave, which is the first book in the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. This is a book about a girl who loses her parents. She becomes an orphan, and she ends up having to move from San Diego to Alaska, which is where her uncle and her cousin live. Her uncle is the headmaster of an academy with dorming, and so she ends up going to attend the school that he's the headmaster of and dorm there with her cousin. And so she immediately, on her very first 15 minutes, meets a mysterious, brooding boy and instantly falls in love with him, type of thing. It's very kind of Twilight-ish. I had felt similar vibes to Twilight while I was reading it. But all in all, there seems to be something strange about the students in the academy. She also seems to be in constant danger, and she doesn't know why. So I think if I say any more than that, it's going to be spoilery, so I'll leave it there. I actually really enjoyed this book. So I borrowed an e-copy from Kindle Unlimited, and I listened to an audiobook copy from Hoopla. I would say I listened mostly on audio, and I read just a little bit from the ebook copy. I really enjoyed it. Gave me the same vibes, like I said, of Twilight. It kind of laughed at itself because there is a scene in there where our main character gets a copy of Twilight from her love interest to read as kind of like a warning, but she doesn't quite get it because she's never read the book. She knows there's hype on it, but she's never read it, and she talks about how excited she is to check it out. And yeah, there's definite similarities to Twilight, but it is different. I did find enough differences where I actually really enjoyed my experience reading it. It was very entertaining. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and it was the Camp Castle Dracula group book, so I was able to steal that book for prompts for the Camp Crystal Lake Readathon, since I'm in Camp Sunnydale. And so, yeah, 592 pages of a sealed book. So, it was a pretty long book, but it did fly by pretty quickly, especially because I was able to listen to a lot of it. I had mentioned last week, I think, that I had thought that the climax of the story seemed to happen too soon. Well, that was because the ending part of this book is actually a preview for another author's book. So there's like 4 chapters worth of that book, and then there's 3 chapters of Crave from the male love interest's perspective at the end. So there's like 7 chapters worth of extra content in the back, plus there is like 3 or 4 other like little blurbs for other books, because this one is published by Entangled Teen, I believe, and so Entangled Teen is like trying to get you to read their other authors' works, and so that's what takes up a good portion of the ending. So the end did not drag out. In fact, the end was pretty eventful. I was really, really like glued to the story when the end was going on. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen next, because it did kind of leave on a cliffhanger. Something happened right at the end, and it's just like, wait, what? So, yes, really enjoyed that. I will be reading the next one, hopefully sometime soon. And so that was one of the things that I finished. So I misspoke, and actually 2 of the things I finished are November finishes. So Crave was the last thing that I finished in October. On November 1st, which this is why I get confused. So I normally read at night before bed. Now typically I don't go to bed until after midnight. Probably more 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And so for me, I don't consider like when I read at night the next day, but technically it is the next day. Like when I go to log it in on Goodreads, it's the next day. So I read my usual, In a Dark, Dark Room and Other Scary Stories. So this I try to read every year on Halloween. And this year I ended up not reading it until 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's a November finish. This is an all-I-can-read children's book. I believe it's grades like 2 or something, level 2, grades 1 through 3. This is a book of short stories. It's for young children who may want a little bit of a horrifying tale to be told at night. There are like, I don't know, 6 or 7 different short stories in here. 7. And my copy is actually illustrated by Dirk Zimmer. I believe I saw a copy on Hoopla that's actually illustrated by someone else. But for me, this is always the one that I would go to. And this is the one that I grew up with. So, like I said, it's a collection of short stories. Some of them are just like a couple pages long. The illustrations are always creepy. This one is my favorite, The Green Ribbon. That is a story that kind of has always stuck with me since I was little. And every year I try to read this on Halloween, and I just missed it by like a couple hours this year. 5 stars. Absolutely love this. But, you know, it's got a lot of nostalgia for me. So if you haven't read this, though, definitely check it out. Especially if you have young kids, because I really enjoyed this when I was a kid, and it stuck with me this entire time. So I bought it, when I was growing up, and then we lost it because of a move. And then when I had my daughter, and she was about this age, I found another copy, and I've had it ever since, and I absolutely love reading this and revisiting it every year. And yeah, really, really enjoyed that one. So the last thing that I just finished yesterday, and that is Solo Leveling Volume 2 by Chugong. This is the second book in the Solo Leveling light novel series. So you know that I'm doing light novel November. This particular light novel does not have any illustrations inside. Sometimes with light novels you can find illustrations. Like I believe one that I will talk to you about next, I believe does have illustrations. It might not. But I know some of the ones that I have lined up for this month do. This one does not. So this series follows Jinwoo Sung, who's like a low-level monster hunter. And in the beginning of this series, he goes into a gate with a team, and pretty much the monster hunter's job is to go into these gates and clear them out of the monsters that are inside, because if they don't, before a certain time, these monsters can come out and wreak havoc into society. Well, because Jinwoo Sung's level is so low, every time he shows up on a job site, people get, their hopes up, because that means that the job's going to be really easy. So he's there, everybody thinks the job's going to be really easy, and it is, until they discover that it is a secret double dungeon, and the second dungeon that's inside the dungeon is much higher level, and the team is not really equipped to handle that. But they had left this gate for so long that it has to be cleared. They have no other choice. They end up going inside and practically get obliterated, and right before Jinwoo Sung gets killed, he sees a message pop up in his head saying, "Would you like to become a player?" And with nothing to lose, he agrees. And this kind of sets off this whole course in his life where he's basically playing one of those fighting video games where you can like level up and collect things and, trade in things for other things that will help you level up type of deal. But nobody else can see that he's doing this. So he's like leveling up as a monster hunter, but nobody ever seems to understand or know why. So, yeah, we see him playing this game, and he gets all of these, like, missions and daily things that he needs to do, and if he doesn't do them, he gets punished type of thing. It's really, really interesting. I really enjoyed the first book in this series. The second book kind of suffered second book syndrome to me. So, in this one, we're basically just seeing him continue to level himself up. But this book is almost all him leveling himself up. He's doing these single raids. He's clearing out these dungeons himself. And all the while he's doing this, I'm kind of like, somebody's going to catch on that there's not something right with what you're doing, right? There is a couple of other things going on in the background that I'm waiting to be fleshed out a little bit more. So hopefully in the next installment, they'll touch up more on those things, because I think with all of the leveling up that he's done here, there can't be much more of this type of thing where he, is trading in rewards for other things that'll help him out. And he's pretty high leveled as of right now. At least I think so. He probably has more to go, but yeah, it was a lot of him leveling up and not a lot of other things. So it was okay. I still ended up giving this one 4 stars. It's probably more like a 3.5, but I still enjoyed listening to this. I listened to it entirely on audiobook. The audiobook is done by Ki-Hong Lee, who you might recognize as Minho from the Maze Runner movies. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was still a little hilarious because he actually goes and like says the sound effects, like swing, or you know, things like that, where he's like swinging his sword and it makes a noise, and there's a word that they use, and of course I can't find one at the moment, but there are little things like that, or like he's hungry and his stomach gurgles and it's like gurgle gurgle and it's just like, it's hilarious. But yeah, I think Chugong Lee does a good job narrating these books, and I do enjoy listening to his narration. So I'm looking forward to getting into the next one. But I might have to take a little bit of a break because there are only 5 of these out right now, and I feel like if I use all of them on my audiobooks, then I'm going to have to wait for the 6th installment, and I don't think that comes out until February. So I am going to step away from the solo leveling for a little while. Now, I know I'm focusing on light novels in the month of November, but there are not very many light novels that have audiobooks. And I like to have an audiobook on the go all the time because it's what I do during my lunch break. I will usually listen to an audiobook and play a video game during my lunch break. And so I need an audiobook now that I finished this one. So I actually got my hold from the library for Percy Jackson, not Percy Jackson, for the Heroes of Olympus, the Son of Neptune, which features Percy Jackson, but is the sequel series to the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. So I had started reading this book a couple months ago, and I just have not gone back to it. I thought that by reading it with my eyes, I might enjoy it better, but that is not the case. So I went ahead and put a hold on the audiobook from my library, and that actually just came in. So it's perfect timing because I just finished my audiobook. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up Son of Neptune on audio since I have it. And then maybe I'll go back and listen to Solo Leveling Volume 3. And then we'll see what I want to do after that. But that's where I am as far as finishes for October and November so far. I'm currently reading Bungo Stray Dogs, Volume 1 of the light novel series. This is Osamu Dazai's entrance exam, and this is a prequel story to the Bungo Stray Dogs series, so the manga or the anime. This follows when Dazai joins the Armed Detective Agency, and Kunikita is set to give him his exam, basically to see whether or not he's a good fit for their agency. And so I haven't gotten very far in this. This week has been rather stressful, and so I've been very, very tired. I'm only 34 pages in. I haven't even hit chapter 2 yet. But basically, we get this story from Dopo, Kunikita's point of view, and I'm not really liking being in his head. He is obviously very frustrated with how Dazai acts, and when we see the manga or the anime, it's more of, I would say it's an omniscient view. We don't really get a view from anybody. We kind of see everything that's going on. But this is definitely from Kunikita's point of view. And so he's got snide comments and things to say about Dazai. And while I can understand his frustration because their personalities are very, very different. And while I can still understand his irritation, it's irritating for me to hear him complain. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm waiting for them to get into their investigation because they're going on a case together to investigate something. And yes, this one does have illustrations. So you can see it's an actual novel on this side, but they do have intermittent illustrations. And yeah, it's okay so far. I think once we get into the actual investigating, it'll get a lot better for me. And yeah, you can see there's another character here. I'm waiting for that character to come in. I believe that's Akutagawa. And he's from the other group, the Port Mafia. And so yeah, things should start heating up once we get further into the investigation. But right now, Dazai and Kunikita are just kind of getting to know each other. Now, this series has, characters that are based on lots of other I wouldn't say literary, but authors. So Dazai is an actual person from history. Kunikita is an actual person from history. And they take little traits of each, actual person. So you may not enjoy this because Dazai, as a character, is obsessed with suicide. I have to put that disclaimer out there because it is integral to his character. He makes mention of researching different ways to kill himself a lot. He tries different ways to kill himself, but isn't successful. And they kind of make light of the fact that the subject is, pretty serious. They kind of make it more humorous. So, the way he says things comes off with, a comedic type of delivery. And so it's not always appropriate. They also reference to him as a suicide enthusiast. So you can't go into this thinking that this is going to be a serious talk on suicide, because it is not. And Dazai does, at least as far as I am right now, 30-something pages in, he has already tried to commit suicide at least 3 times. Just for reference, though, the author, Osamu Dazai, did commit suicide. So I think the mangaka just pulled that as a character trait. I don't agree with that, but it is part of Dazai's character. Because we're not really into investigating right now, there's a lot of talk about him looking into different ways to kill himself. He's tried eating a poison mushroom. I think they just talked about him trying to drown himself or something. And he kind of talks about it in a romantic sense. So just know that going into this, that's the kind of content we're dealing with when there is talk about suicide in this series. Not just this book, this series. But yeah. So this is okay for me right now. I know my daughter really enjoyed this one. And, it is the first book in the light novel series. And like I said, it's from the point of view that I'm not really enjoying. But I think once the investigation starts to ramp up, it will be much more interesting for me. So that's what I'm currently reading. And that is everything as far as the reading goes. Now, as far as knitting, I did finish my pair of Crunkled Ghostbusters socks. So right where the vampire lips are is where I was. So I did this much. And now I have a pair of Crunkled Ghostbusters, or my Do-Re Egon 2 socks, because the colorway for these socks is the Lolo Did It Ghostbusters in the original base. And then this is a Phil Collada Arwetta Classic in a cranberry color. And yes, so I'm very, very happy with this. I did make a little bit of a change to the Crunkled pattern. So Crunkled socks are from Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears podcast. I did do the garter heel flap. I just thought it looked cleaner. And then the Crunkled pattern does come with her umbrella toe. And so I did keep that. So that's pretty much the only difference I made. But yes, really enjoyed this pattern. And it'll be one that I redo a lot. I know this is really popular in the knitting community right now too. A lot of podcasters that I watch have either done their first pair of Crunkled within this year or are just learning about this pattern. So yeah, really, really enjoyed that. Did I enter it for Sockoween, the patron, Bakery Bear patron knit along? No. I forgot. That's what kind of week it's been for me. So I did get the socks done though, just in the nick of time, but I did get them done. And that's pretty much everything that I've done. No, it's not. I have one more sock to share with you. Hang on a second. So I finished one sock. One more sock. So I just finished the sock last night. So this is in my Haunted Mansion vinyl bag that I got off of Etsy. I had started these socks a long time ago and just never worked on them for a while. So this is my Chevron socks, I think. I don't even remember. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. This colorway is a self-striping. So it actually looks like this. But with the pattern, it gives me those nice chevrons. And this yarn is from Night Owl Fibers. So I had picked this one up from her Spooky Fun Club, I think, which was a Halloween yarn club a while back. Let me see if I can pull this out. Spooky Fun Club 2020. This is called I Smell Children. So it looks like this. And I put it in my Utterly Adorable Knits yarn cake holder that I picked up just recently. And yeah, so I'm finally knitting this up. I didn't want to just do a plain self-striping though. So I looked for a design that I could do on self-striping. And there's not really a lot that you can do with self-striping. But I wanted to try this. So I looked at several other patterns before I landed on this one. And I was very concerned because the amount of stitches. So because of the chevron pattern, you do need to cast on more stitches because it makes it not as stretchy. So some changes I would make if I did these next time, because this is only one side, so I do need to make the second one match. But some changes I would make is I would make the cuff a little bit longer. I didn't follow what the pattern said. I did my normal 15 rows of rib. I did it in the twisted rib though, because that is what is called for in the pattern. And then the way that the heel was written is a little bit weird. So this pattern is also written for DPNs, double pointed needles, and I did this on Magic Loop because I don't enjoy DPN knitting. I constantly poke myself, and I always get me like right underneath the nail. It's really painful. So I don't do DPNs often unless I absolutely have to. But with the way that this pattern is done, the way the heel was done was a little weird. And you can see that, well, maybe you can't see because it's black. This is Filcolana R White Classic, I'm sorry, in black. This is supposed to be an Eye of Partridge. My Eye of Partridge heels don't ever look like they're supposed to. I don't even know if you can see that. Like, I can't make it look like it's supposed to. It never ever comes out. It just looks like a stockinette stitch heel flap, which is upsetting because I did everything I'm supposed to do. It's probably to do something with my tension, but I don't know how to fix it. I've tried several different things to try to get the Eye of Partridge heel to look like it's supposed to. I've tried holding the yarn different. I've tried Continental versus English. I've tried just English. I've tried just Continental, and I've tried different yarns, and it just does not come out. I don't know why. So I tend to not do the Eye of Partridge heel, but because it was in the pattern, and this is the first time that I was doing this pattern, I decided to go ahead and do the Eye of Partridge heel. Putting in the heel flap was a little fiddly. It was very different for me than how I normally do because of the way we were coming from the pattern. And so, yeah, I tried to do it the way that I know how to do heels. But that kind of didn't work, and I had to fiddle out how to fix it. So that's going to be a problem on the second sock, considering how long ago it was, and I don't quite remember what I did. But anyway, after we had gotten through all of that, I was able to decrease and get this part of the sock done with relative ease. And then the toe, I just did my lightning toe, which is a toe that I have come up with. Because by the time you get down here, you do decrease your stitches. So you're at a normal 64 stitch. And so I just did whatever toe I wanted to do. So instead of doing the toe that she had in the pattern, I did my lightning toe. But yeah, this pattern was definitely interesting. It was a little bit difficult to understand and like change around for magic loop, if I'm honest. And it does look a little like baggy in here at the top of the foot right now, but I think that when I put it on, it should be fine. But yeah, it was an interesting learning experience, and I'll do the second side. And then I think what I'm going to do is try to write it up for magic loop, just so that I have it, so that I can remember what I did when I did this, because it was difficult. Like, I had to like stop and think about how I'm doing certain things, and I'm not a real big fan of how this last line here looks. But like I said, because I want both sides to match, I am going to go ahead and do the same on the second sock. But I will probably try this again in the future after I write up my notes to see if I can get it done better. But yeah, so now I have a pair and a half of Halloween socks. So I don't know if I want to like do my second sock right now, or if I want to work on my sweaters since it's been colder, or cast on a pair of holiday socks for my daughter. I don't know yet, but it has been a stressful week, and I've been very tired. I've put in a lot of past work time hours. Last night I didn't get off of work until about 7:30. Next week my coworker is going on vacation, so on Monday I will be the only one holding down the fort, as we say. So we have 4 people in our office. One of them is partially retired. 2 of them will be off, which leaves me. So I will have to do everybody's jobs in the office on Monday. Tuesday, the part-timer comes back, but she's only part-time. And so, yeah, it's going to be another stressful week for me. So knowing that my coworker was going to be off this week, and I'd have to not only take care of her stuff, but my stuff and the other part-time girl's desk for the hours that she's not going to be in the office, I put in an extra 2.5 hours last night, just so that I won't be so far behind next week. And then I'll have 1 more week of work, and I will be on vacation for 2 weeks. So I'm really like looking forward to that. There's a couple other things going in the office, IT wise, that I don't understand why they want to make these changes right now. It makes no sense to me, but they want to do it like now, and I'm just like, I don't have time for this. So I've got 2 more meetings to talk about that next week. And it's just been really, really stressful. Really stressful. So, yeah. I hope you guys are all having a better week than I am. Or having a better, like, month than I am. Because November did not start out good for me. Not at all. October was a good reading month for me. But, like, I don't feel like I was in the spirit of October, so it's kind of really weird. I did watch one of my normal Halloween movies, the Muppets Haunted Mansion, which has become a new annual tradition. Because we always watch Muppets Christmas Carol at Christmas. So we watch Muppets Haunted Mansion, and that's pretty much the only like Halloween movie that we normally watch. We did watch Hocus Pocus 2, but that was new this year. So we didn't even watch Hocus Pocus 1. We didn't watch The Worst Witch. We didn't watch Halloween Town. None of the movies that I normally watch during Halloween or October did I watch. So I'm feeling a little bit weird about that. So yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm not like in the spirit, and I want to be in the spirit. So yeah, I'm just kind of taking it day by day and see. Maybe I'll get into the holidays early since I'm going to be on vacation. But I know I've got several projects that I want to get done while I'm on vacation. Some for this channel, so we'll see about that. But anyway, I'm rambling. My neighbors are doing construction outside. I'm sure you've heard. So yeah, I'm going to cut this off right now. Let me know down in the comments below how your October ended up. How many things did you read? Did you have a best and worst book of the month? Or have you started off your November really great? I'd love to know. If nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a ghost emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.